just easier to hide. Prepare for an aching the rest of your life.
Hello. So today I wanted to talk about the difference between being on a moral high horse and fighting oppression. So I started thinking about this because of a conversation with one of my friends. He uses the word man to describe humankind, and I was talking to him about it, and I was like, "You realize that that's like sexist, right? And that's not, you know, it's not good." um, and I explained to him how this phrase treats women as secondary, and it's saying that man is the primary, um, and women are not included in mankind, like in humankind, like they're just secondary. And I went back to like Genesis, and I know there's two versions of Genesis, but the one is where I think that this whole idea really came from, and that's that women are secondary, and it's where God is like, oh man, he created man first, and he's like, man needs a helper, so I'll create women. So he takes the rib of the man, and he forms it into a woman to be this man's helper and to be secondary to the man. And so I was explaining this to my friend, and he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, but my you have to look at my intent, and my intent is that um, I I just am trying to get across whatever I'm saying, and it doesn't matter what words I use." And I was like, "Okay, well, yeah, but your words have an effect on people." And I explained how using man perpetuates the idea that women are secondary, and this affects real women in the real world physically. It physically affects them because he always claims that, well, he's a scientist, I guess, and he says that he has a purely logical mind, and that he thinks that science can explain everything, and he's trying to explain this with science, and it's not working because I just don't know that you can. Maybe to some extent you can explain things with science, but I just don't think this is one of those things. And he's going on about science and blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, listen, you know, you're saying these words, it's affecting, it's perpetuating an idea, and it's affecting real people in the world. And he just he wouldn't listen to me. And so I was like, I got to the point where I was like, well, the intent behind what you're saying is that you don't care about women, that it's not important that women's issues and women's oppression is, you know, eliminated or, helped in some way. You're perpetuating this idea because it's easier for you. And, so caring about women is not the intent when you're saying this word. And he's like, oh my God, well, you're just getting on a moral high horse. And I'm like, I don't think I am. And I was very hurt. Like, I kind of freaked out, and I was like, well, I considered that maybe I was on a moral high horse, because that's one of the things that I'm trying to do is I vowed to dismount my high horse and never saddle it again, because I don't think that high horses are good for people. They don't help anybody. Um, and so I was a little freaked out. I was like, well, maybe I am on a high horse. And so I apologized profusely, and I was like, I'm sorry if I'm on a moral high horse. But then I started thinking about it later after the conversation was over, and I was like, no, I wasn't on a high horse. I think he was just not caring about oppression, not caring about women. Um, and so I wanted to present the point that there is a difference between being on a moral high horse and fighting oppression. A moral high horse is when somebody is acting like they're better or superior to someone else. Um, and fighting oppression is trying to stop unjust cruelty that's being forced upon a group of people. And for women, we are forced to live in this world where we have certain expectations, and we are we're just we're here, and we're trapped into this way. We're put into a box that we cannot leave. and we are trying to deal with that. And I don't think that it's being, fighting oppression. You're just trying to stop that cruelty. I don't think it's saying that you're better than somebody else, but maybe in my case, in my conversation, I was saying I'm better than you because I'm not being cruel to women, but I think the dynamic was clearly that, like, there was a man being like, well, this is the way it has to be, and men are on top, and someone who's perceived as a woman being like, no, 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 listen to me. Um, and I think it could come down to of, are some opinions better than others? And I would argue that some opinions are better than others. I It seems like we are moving towards a society that is very pluralistic, and by pluralistic I mean a well, pluralism by definition in a philosophical sense is, quote, a theory or system that recognizes more than one ultimate principle. Um, and so what I mean by pluralism is that it's it's saying that everybody is the same, every idea is created equal, and things, if so, truth claims are all equal. Um, so, like, you could look at religious pluralism where we're like, well, we should respect all religions, Christianity and its truth claims are just as valid as the truth claims of Buddhism. That we should have faith in God, and God's real, and Jesus' resurrection is real, and he will be coming back, and he died for our sins. Those truth claims are just as valid as the truth claims that in Buddhism, where suffering is the problem in the world, and we can reach enlightenment, and that compassion is the way, the right way, I guess. To I don't know that Buddhism would quite say right, but that compassion is a way to live our lives, and that we should be compassionate. I think that Buddhism's truth claim might be that we should be compassionate to people. So pluralism is saying these are equal ideas. They're the same. They are both valid and should be respected. So I think that's where our society is moving, where we just don't want to we don't want to talk about the fact that some ideas could be better than others. Um, but if some ideas aren't better than others, then what's the point of getting higher education, becoming educated, doing anything really, trying to improve yourself? If some ideas are better than others, that means that we have something to work towards, we can improve. Um, I would argue that a more educated viewpoint is a better opinion than a less educated viewpoint. A viewpoint that can include as many sides of an idea as possible would be more educated than a view, or will be better, more educated than a view that only has maybe one or two sides. Um, so that kind of comes back to my conversation with my friend, where I'm seeing that word is more than just trying to portray what you're saying. It's it's harmful to women. So that's 2 points. I understand two perspectives, and whereas he only understood one perspective, that I'm just using this word to try to get my meaning out. So in that way, maybe my opinion was better than his. And so I don't know, is that a moral high horse to say someone is, that I'm acting like I'm better or superior to someone else? I don't think I was acting like I was superior. I think I was being oppressed by that word, and I was saying, no, I don't want that. And of course, somebody who is, him being societally better than me, him being societally superior to me, him being, the primary sex, uh, yeah, it's easy for me to just be like, well, I should, you know, obey, essentially. And oh well, it's it's atypical for a woman or anyone to challenge the system that has been put in place, and the patriarch. And so I was challenging that, and I think that he became defensive, and his defense was to say that you're just being on a moral high horse, and by saying that it devalues my opinion, and builds him right back up, and it's denying the suffering that he is causing with being on, well, he's not on a moral high horse, but being oppressing. So, I don't know. I think that maybe there's a difference between moral high horses and fighting oppression, and that we shouldn't say that people fighting oppression are on moral high horses, because what's the point if we just say that everybody's idea is the same? Because clearly that's not true, and people die and are hurt because of these things. And should we not stop those? I mean, certainly everybody has their different opinion, but I think that women should be, treated the same as men. And maybe that's pluralistic, saying women and men should be treated the same, but I don't think so. I don't think that's pluralism. I think that's equality. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think that what do you think the difference between a moral high horse and fighting oppression is? Is there a difference? I don't know. I hope you have the best day ever, and you find meaning in your life and meaningful connections with others.